Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Andy.
And Andy, if you woke up by yourself on a spaceship in the middle of nowhere, what would be your reaction?
I would probably just immediately eject myself out into space and just burn up or freeze to death or explode or whatever happens to you when you just eject yourself out into space.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be. That would definitely cross my mind, but there'd definitely be a lot of crying in the fetal position just for a long time.
Yeah, same. And I can promise you I wouldn't do anything near as cool as anything Ryan Gosling can do. So what's the point?
Certainly not. And I could tell you something else for sure. I would not, even with the help of machinery, give myself a haircut that looks as good as Ryan Gosling gives himself in space.
Yeah. Why? Like, why can he just do that and that, in this story and still look amazing like Gosling does? But, he would do that in real life, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt. Gosling just, I think he's incapable of not looking super handsome.
Ugh, it's ridiculous.
So this week we are, of course, talking about Project Hail Mary, which is a new film starring Ryan Gosling from um, Lord and Miller, who are we most people will be familiar with from what, Andy? What would people know them from?
I feel like a lot of people know him from the Lego movie and then
Yeah,
the Spider-Verse movies.
yeah, yeah. So pretty good track record there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
They've managed to make all these movies up to now that were so much better than I thought they would be. And that I went into them going like, I don't know. And then, by the end of the movie, like, holy cow, that was really, really good.
yeah, for sure. I'm a huge fan of the Spider Verse movies, and also want to mention that this is also from, and I should have written his name down. It's from the guy who wrote the book or the story The Martian, which became
Yes.
a huge pop culture thing, and then became a movie in and of itself, starring Matt Damon. Great movie.
Yes.
And then he wrote this one, another space adventure, and this one, of course, a little different in that The Martian was. It was kind of like, yes, we this isn't real science because we can't get to Mars, but like if we were to get to Mars and somebody's get stranded there, what's the most realistic version of that? And this movie is takes a lot of the smarts along with it, but it pushes the sci-fi a little more, where it's like, okay, we're gonna meet an alien, and there's no like real science behind what would this alien be like and his technology be like. So there's a little more sci-fi involved in this, but I'm okay with that.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. No notes.
Yep. So let me give a brief summary of this one, and then we'll jump into our thoughts on the movie. So Gosling plays Grace, a microbiologist who wakes up on a spaceship on a voyage to a distant star. Eventually, he comes to grip with his circumstances, which is being on a one-way mission to find out how this remote star is surviving the same biological assault that is harming Earth's sun. But soon his solo mission takes a turn as he encounters another solo traveler on the same mission, an alien he names Rocky, with whom he forms a friendship. Andy,
Yeah.
was Project Hail Mary good?
Project Hail Mary is just glorious, Jeremy. I, it's of course it's very early in the year, but I feel like there's a decent chance this has a spot on my top five of the year, although it is a packed year. And then this just, I don't know if what the right word is, just cements Gosling as an all-time movie star. It's not like we didn't know that, but for some reason, this kind of felt like the movie and the performance that he needed to just really put that stamp on it. Um, I just left this movie honestly with a lot of the same feelings I had when I left F1, even though obviously those two movies have nothing in common. But just I kind of just wanted to smile and skip out of the theater and just go up to everyone and be like, "Aren't movies just the best?" So I was just thrilled with this movie.
Oh, I love everything that you said, Andy. This movie was awesome. Uh, I really love smart sci-fi, and that's what this is.
Hmm.
It's sci-fi, but
Yeah.
it's done really smart. Um, I think that's a great comparison with F1, and I think the way that I would explain it is that it's movies that you appreciate as an adult, but your like child you would also really appreciate. You know, like
Yeah.
obviously your tastes change and you grow and you mature and all that. And sometimes you look back on things you liked as a kid and you're like, oh, that was terrible and I can't believe I ever had that taste. But sometimes you have movies like this that just go like, this is everything that was great when I was a kid and it's great as an adult. It just bridges the two, and
Yeah.
it's so much fun to watch. And what you're talking about with Gosling is so true. I think he is awesome. I was talking to some of my friends yesterday about it. It was like, do I just have to like say that Gosling is one of my guys, like one of my top guys? And like, I think I have to because he's been so good for so long now that like I'm not surprised when he's great in a movie, and I'm always excited to watch him in a movie.
Yeah, it feels like this is like the equivalent of him, like with an athlete, like just being in the zone. Like for the last few years, even like whatever you think of Barbie, like he's full of charisma in that movie. He performed "I'm Just Ken" at the Oscars, and he just killed that. He did the SNL sketch when he was like him and the other dude were Beavis and Butthead. I thought the Fall Guy was great. I still to this day don't understand how that didn't make way more money than it did, and now this, and he's just kind of like everything he does, he is just bringing that Ryan Gosling charm, and it's all working, and he's managing to stay in the spotlight, but he doesn't feel like there's like Ryan Gosling like fatigue at all. Like he has just found this lane, and he is just owning it and dominating it, and it is a great time to be a fan of Gosling and just everything he brings to the table.
Yeah, he kind of under the radar follows that Leonardo DiCaprio slash Tom Cruise playbook of like he hasn't gotten caught up in Marvel or anything or any big
Mhm.
franchise. Obviously, he's done spectacle and franchises. He did Blade Runner 2049, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I mean, that's sort of even though that is a sequel and a franchise, it feels so much like its own thing, and it's not connected to some bigger universe where he has to keep coming back to it. He's not done any TV or anything like that. Like the dude is just like, I'm just gonna be in hit movies, and that's about
Yeah.
it. And I'm gonna keep that movie star persona where you don't know too much about me outside of
Mhm.
that. I'm gonna be great in interviews and all, but I'm always just gonna be Ryan Gosling, the movie star.
Yeah, and it's just a blast. And we talk about this a lot on here with different movies, different characters and stuff. I mean, he has to do so much in this movie. He has to be charming and likable, or this movie just collapses right out of the gate. And man, this is a what 2 hour and 35 minute long movie, and he keeps that up the whole time. But when he needs to kick in the emotion, or when he needs to have a tear running down his face, man, do you feel it?
Yeah, that's. I was trying to put my finger on it a little bit even while watching it. Like, what is it that? How would you describe the like Gosling thing that he's mastered? And it's like this sort of lovable goofball who's also like incredibly charming and smart, and it, I just don't know how somebody pulls it off the same combination like that. Like, you've got your Brad Pitt who's effortlessly cool all the time. It's like he can play kind of goofy, but it's not quite like the lovable like goofball like Gosling does. Like Gosling plays kind of a puppy much better than like Brad because Brad's just a little too cool for that. And then but he
Mm-hmm.
can also be that level of cool. And I don't know, like, there's nobody else who can kind of do those things in combination quite like Gosling.
There's definitely not. I was thinking the exact same thing. He's kind of a one of one in the way he can just balance those two things, and how he can just flip that switch so quickly. Like, oh, I need to be cool guy Gosling right now. Okay, no problem. Oh, I need to go back to being doofus Gosling, and like it's really really incredible. I mean, I'll just go ahead and get this out here right now. I really hope a year from now we're talking about how he was at least nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be really well deserved.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little more about the movie itself, sort of
Hmm.
the plot of the movie. So obviously, this is a book, and a lot of people are going to have or were knew what to expect from having read the book, but I had no familiarity with the book, so I went in pretty blind. Pretty much all I knew was what was from the previews, and from the previews, I don't know. I just expected a more traditional story structure of, you know, something's going wrong on Earth. They find him as a scientist, all the preparation. Eventually, he ends up in space. No, it like kicks off. He's in space, waking up, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well they're gonna do the thing where we start here, but then we go back, and then we follow that traditional structure. But it doesn't. I mean, we really have to get that backstory pieced together in little bits throughout the whole movie, and it's just funny to me that like so much of what was in the preview is just these little short scenes interspersed throughout the movie to like show you enough background that from a preview you can kind of have an idea of what's going on, but it's really not the way the movie's structured. The movie's structured for him to be alone in space for most of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do applaud the preview. Like, it definitely did hide a lot of stuff. I mean, we know there's an alien, we know this, that. But like you said, I was really pleasantly surprised, honestly, that the movie starts out with him waking up. You know, he's in space. He's obviously been there for a while. He's got the long beard and the long hair. We joked about, him getting himself a haircut and stuff. And yeah, and I thought it worked. We talk and we debate different movies about whether the gimmicks and stuff work. And I don't know if even gimmick is the right word, but we do flash back and forth and we kind of learn. But I think it works for this movie because he's not remembering. He doesn't remember everything leading up to that. So these flashbacks to me almost kind of felt like him remembering as he's going along.
Yeah, exactly, and kind of like figuring out how he got there and
Mm-hmm.
what's going on, and it is kind of a, I mean, it's a heavy story that they make feel very digestible. I mean, it's a heavy story about a guy
Yes.
who's on this mission that he doesn't really want to be on, and he knows it's a suicide mission, and like that could just be a really dour movie. I mean, very easily.
Yeah.
And for them to like, I feel like appropriately address that enough and yet not let the
Mm-hmm.
movie overall feel like a downer is a very impressive balancing act that they pull off.
Yeah, I give so much credit to Lord and Miller. Like, these guys really know, and they're doing a really cool thing where no matter what subject they tackle, whether it's Legos or Spider-Man or Gosling on a suicide mission, they just know how to put a ton of heart into their movies. And that's
Yeah.
their kind of their secret sauce, and it's working spectacularly for them.
Yeah, for sure. So this movie, the one thing that I will say about it, and I feel like I'm going to be a little over the place, but this movie's kind of hard to walk through scene by scene because it's more like big stretch by big stretch. You get your big stretch of him by himself, kind of getting used to being in space on his own and accepting this mission and doing some calculations. When he meets Rocky, and then there's a big stretch of him kind of getting acquainted with Rocky, then them trying to go on missions. So like, there's just kind of these long stretches, and we're not going to talk through every part of it.
Right.
But because of that, these long stretches, I am kind of immediately curious about the rewatchability of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be rewatchable. And one thing that gives me encouragement is The Martian, I think, is a very rewatchable movie. It's a movie that I can just
Yeah.
sort of throw on and have on. And it's got a lot of similarities. But I was like, there are sort of these long stretches of him like figuring things out that are really interesting to watch, especially when you don't know where they're going. And I'm curious once we kind of know, how's it going to be when we're watching this long stretch of him trying to figure out how to communicate with Rocky? Am I going to be as
Mm-hmm.
enthralled on a second watch when I'm just waiting to like, can he figure it out? Can he come up with a system? And not to say that there's like it drags or it takes so long, but I feel like there is so much more to like, you kind of have to slow pace through because as fast as they go with him learning how to communicate with an alien, if you do it in like 5 seconds, you're like, well, that was too easy. You've got to have the
Yeah.
5 minute montage of him figuring out how to communicate with the alien.
Yeah, absolutely. And my theory is just that's where the Gosling charm is really going to pay off because you're just going to it's going to have that rewatchability because of the heart, like I said, that Lord and Miller put into this movie, and then just Gosling being just so entertaining, literally no matter what. Even like the way he plays with his glasses in this movie, he's always finding something to do. Not just for the sake of doing it, but like he's just fascinating to watch up on the screen.
Yeah. And they really do a good job of pushing some things along faster than it probably should go, but because the movie just, they don't want it to drag. I mean, even things like, so his first encounter with Rocky, I think it's the first encounter, and Rocky gives him a present. It's this little like it looks like a little beaded necklace thing or glowing beaded necklace thing or something, and he figures out, oh, it's oxygen because he's smart and he figured out it's like whatever the makeup of it is. And he's like, that's nice, but it's like I still need my helmet. Like if I'm wrong about this, like I die basically.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, he's gonna have to build up trust to do that. And he walks down the tunnel, and then he kind of like has this moment of like, I'm assuming the moment is like, I'm kind of miserable and on a suicide mission anyways. What do I have to lose? Let's just try this. And he takes the helmet off, and he can breathe. And it's like, did that happen kind of fast? Yeah, but it keeps the movie going. Like it doesn't spend this whole long time of like, what would be a reasonable amount of time for somebody to trust this new alien they just met that, hey, this technology I just gave you will keep you alive.
Absolutely, and that's again a lot of credit to the directors and the screenwriter, same guy who adapted The Martian. They do a really good balancing job of they do let things take their time because this is a long movie. I mean, like I said, it's at least 2.5. It may be 2:35, but they do a nice balance of letting things breathe. But yeah, they definitely. I do feel like they expect us as an audience to just kind of take some leaps, like you said, so him and Rocky learn how to communicate. And it's like they go from like, oh, I can identify this sound to just having full blown conversations really quickly. But, the alternative is like, man, it took forever to get to the point where him and Rocky could talk to each other. So they do a really good job of finding that balance. But you definitely have to just take some leaps, along with the movie. Like, all right, that's fine. I'll just accept the fact that him and Rocky are having just full conversations together.
Yeah. So I went and saw this movie with my brother, and I didn't realize till after the movie he confessed to me. He said, I think I missed probably a good 20 to 30-minute stretch in there. And I said, did you fall asleep in the movie? And he goes, yeah, I did. And he said, I fell asleep, and he was meeting the alien. He goes, and the next thing I know, they were having like these full conversations. He's like, what happened there? And I'm like, I'll be honest with you, I can't explain it other than he got a computer and started documenting some of the sounds. And next thing you know, bada bing, bada boom, they're having conversations. So,
movie stuff just happens, and all of a sudden they just talk.
Exactly. But again, thank goodness. And I wouldn't want them to spend so much time. I did laugh and just think, the movie Arrival is rolling its eyes right now because it went above and beyond. And be like, no, you don't understand. Communicating with an alien would be way harder than this. But
yep,
another great movie, by the way. But
it is.
But let's talk a little bit about Rocky.
Yeah.
I think what they did with Rocky is one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen because of this. They made Rocky a charming, lovable alien, and Rocky doesn't even have a face. Yeah. And that's usually the trick that they can do with aliens is make aliens kind of have some of the same elements that like puppy dogs have. Give them big, eyes. Give them, kind of a playful personality, like let them smile. And this one, it's like, it's a rock it's like a spider rock. And somehow you're going to like end up falling in love with this spidery rock.
It is really impressive. Like, honestly, it's so impressive. Like, you just want to sit them down and, Lord and Miller and be like, how did you guys do this? Like, how did you get us so dang attached to this rock? And I guess it's just, the visuals. It's Gosling, of course, is a big help to that. And it's just good screenwriting. It's, again, I'm going to say this a lot on here. It's just the heart they put into it. Like, it doesn't take you long to really be attached to them as a friend pair, and it's just through good writing and good acting by Gosling, and so impressive that you are touched and moved and emotional anytime you think that this rock is in danger.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, there's still little tricks that they do to make you love the character. Of course, first off, great job by whoever the voice actor is. He is just like a voice actor that voiced Rocky, not like a known voice. Who did a great job with him and just the way he talks and sort of the excitability. I think it was kind of puppy dog like at time. Like he would get excited and just say things, just even like amaze, like when he was excited about something. And then the way he would sort of like when he first came into to Gosling's ship and is rolling around in that ball and he's just like excitedly bouncing around and talking about like what a mess it is. Those sort of things are like that golden retriever type personality, that makes you think something's lovable, because it's just the energy and excitement of it. Um, so they did do some of that, but yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought the design was unique. At this point, we've had so many aliens in movies. It's always like, what are you gonna do to stand out and be different as an alien? And I thought this was a unique, different way to make the alien.
Yep, great job. I didn't, not having read the book, I don't know what the alien is like in the book or how much description it has to it. So, maybe a lot of it just stems from good writing. But yeah, just an incredible job by the design team, and they actually made this thing. Like it's a, I don't know what the right word is. Puppet's not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like this is a thing that
Animatronic,
Gosling,
something, yeah.
yeah, could see and interact with. And actually, the real secret sauce to Rocky winning us over is the fist my bump joke that
Yeah.
just works really well and is really funny. And after that, you're like, I'm in. Like I'm in because this is hilarious.
Yeah. Uh, I do think it's funny that like uh they named him Rocky, and just thinking of like, of course that's cool to us. We're huge fans of the Rocky franchise. When he has to name
Right.
like Rocky's mate back home and he names her Adrian, like it's just he's just running with the Rocky theme. And I wonder like I hope that still plays with the younger generation. I hope that
I know.
they're appreciative of the reference and stuff, but you never know. Like maybe that is just stuff for our generation.
I don't know. It worked on. I saw this with my boys, and of course, it worked on them because they grew up in
Because they've got a
our
good
house where
father,
I was,
yeah.
yeah, I was constantly watching and making them watch Rocky. So they got it, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I hope so. But I guess that's a part of the secret too. Is like that is charming if you know it, but if you don't know it, still equally is there's still a charming character in this movie, and Rocky has a ton of screen time in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. I mean, it really
Yeah,
is. It's really a two-hander. I mean, it's Gosling, obviously the most, Rocky second most, and it's a big gap where you go down to, the lady who's overseeing the mission and the flashbacks to Earth, and it's not a whole lot of her in it, really. Um,
no,
Sandra
no,
Huller
it's real.
is her name, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they don't get Rocky right, as much as like I said at the beginning, Gosling has to nail this because it's so focused on him. But if the Rocky stuff doesn't work, then this movie's going to not be good, and to you because it's very heavily featured in this movie, and most of the emotional beats are based around Grace and Rocky. So you don't get that right, this movie just isn't the big success that it is. So job well done by everyone.
Yeah. I gotta say, who's got to feel a little bummed out by this movie is Adam Sandler, who had the movie
Yeah,
Spaceman 2 years ago, in which
yeah,
he's a guy alone in space and has a companion for a little while that is a giant spider, voiced by Paul Dano. And I actually thought the movie was decent, but it was pretty forgettable. And with this movie, it's just going to be completely
it's
obliterated from
gone.
everybody's
Yeah,
consciousness. Yeah.
yeah. I've never heard one person talk about that Sandler movie other than you. You and I talking about it a little bit, and now
Yeah.
it just might as well be erased from existence.
Yeah. Uh, so can I say, just from a very practical perspective, the most sci-fi element of this movie, the most like exaggerated rings false to me moment of this movie is early in the movie when Gosling is a teacher in a junior high classroom and he has a captive audience of students who are very interested in what he's teaching and excited to
Yeah,
give him answers back. And I thought, sci-fi and the liberties they can take.
yeah. As a teacher, you can truly understand how far out that is, can't you?
Yes, absolutely. Uh,
Yeah,
but it was fun scenes. I actually really liked all the scenes. So sometimes with these movies, I think, like all that like preparing to go to space stuff can all just drag a little bit and you'd be like, all right, let's get to the part where we're going to space and we're on mission. I think it helps that we start on mission and we just get these scenes sort of in flashback, but they're all actually really interesting scenes. I loved all the scenes of him working to figure out the stuff with the little black dots and with the the security guy Carl, who's the actor I believe is the guy from The Bear who plays the pastry chef. But all that stuff was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the time with them.
It's incredible how Carl and Gosling go into Home Depot or wherever they're supposed to be, and just throwing duct tape in a shopping cart. How entertaining those guys make that! It's really really impressive.
Yeah, and it's just great little bits of humor thrown in there where Gosling, they're checking out. Gosling holds up the Skittles like, "Can I?" And then he just has like a whole giant handful of Skittles. He's like, "Yeah, let's just get all of them."
And then a little bit later, you just see different workers throughout the lab eating bags of Skittles.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like we always talk about on here. Sometimes just the little bit of extra thought or effort or heart or emotion or humor goes such a long way. And that's a great example of just the Skittles gag. It's so good.
yeah. So I guess I haven't really explained what the mission is in this movie, but
Yeah.
essentially, like, there's this. They discover this red stream of light going from Venus to the sun, and there's these little black dots seemingly all in it, and there's these theories about what they are and whether or not they're harming the sun, but it seems like they are, and they're able to like actually acquire some of them. I guess on one space mission they go out and kind of acquire some of them, and they recruit um, Ryan Gosling because he's a microbiologist, and he's his big theory that he once had that people just rejected him for the science community was that water was not necessary for life, or there's the possibility that it wouldn't be necessary for life. And so he's very excited. They kind of draw him in with like, hey, these things that could apparently survive at the sun, doesn't that sound like something that's not water based? And so he's like, yeah, this might prove my theory. And it's really funny how quickly he finds out by examining them they're mostly made of water. He's still not
Yeah.
correct because it
Yep.
just plays into this whole idea of like he's the guy who just feels like he's a failure and that's all he's ever going to be. And so for it to start with that, like, yeah, this thing you were brought in for, you're still not correct about it. But then he's able to make some other discoveries almost inadvertently as he's like, okay, well, why are they coming from Venus? Why not, Mars, since it's, or is it Mercury that's this is really bad. This is elementary science and I can't remember which planet's closest to the sun, but
It's all right.
yeah.
It's a movie
Mercury
podcast, not a
is
science
supposed to-
podcast.
Yeah, gosh, I'm disappointed in myself. Anyways, it has to do with the chemical makeup of it, whatever's in the atmosphere of that planet, and it turns out they're attracted to it, and it makes them duplicate. They end up using this stuff as fuel because it like really charges them, and it's what allows them to travel all the way to the sun. So they're like, we can use these things to make us travel at light speed, to go observe these things, and so that's what this whole thing is about. It's kind of cool because it's a movie without a traditional villain, right? Like it's not an alien movie where the aliens are intentionally like, we're coming to destroy your planet. It's like, hey, there's just these like little molecules that are alive but that like feed off the sun's energy and are going to destroy it, so we've got to just figure out how to make that stop. It's like a very, like I said, there's no villain. It's high stakes but no villain, so you're not like scared, you're not rooting against somebody, you're just like, we just got to figure this out.
Yeah, and that's another. I agree with everything you're saying. And that's another really nice thing about this movie. It just strikes a really amazing tone, like you said, to be high stakes. I mean, literally, they're like, because they do paint a little bit of a grim picture. Where it's like, in 30 years, we're gonna basically kill each other over rations and different things like that. And it's like, oh, that's kind of dark. But just the tone of this movie, it makes it feel important, but also keeps things lighthearted. It's a really impressive balance. It really, really cool achievement.
Absolutely. And I maybe because of that, maybe because the stakes are so high, you never really doubt that they're going to figure it out. Like you kind of know you're on that type of movie, and I think that helps you. You're not like worried that, and since it tells you from the beginning he's not going to make it back, you're not like, oh shoot, what if he dies on this mission? Because it's like that's sort of the point.
Yeah.
But then you do get hope at one point where Rocky tells him, like, when Rocky finds out that he believes he's on a suicide mission, and Rocky's like, I've got enough, I can send you back home. I've got enough of these particles, these creatures, whatever they are, to send you back home. It'll just take me 6 years longer to get home. And Gosling's like, it's a great moment where he starts crying and Rocky's like, I thought you said you made peace with this. He's like, that was all a lie. That's just something you say. So uh, you're like, okay, he'll make it back. But then you have so many more issues that come up. And first off, you think Rocky might die because Rocky ends up having to almost sacrifice himself or possibly sacrifice himself to save Gosling at one point when they're nearly crashing and he gets knocked out. And they can't ever be in the same atmosphere. They're only allowed to
Hmm.
be around each other with these like walls put up, or Rocky being in this little like ball that he made.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, anyway, so that's one of the obstacles. And then they finally do part. They feel like they've got everything figured out, and they go their separate ways. And then Gosling figures out, oh, this stuff that we found that's the sort of antibody to these creatures, which is its own living creature, will like leak out and destroy the stuff, and essentially it's going to end up destroying his whole ship, and he's going to die. Rocky's going to die if I don't let him know about this. So my choices are either to fly back to Rocky and let him know, but then I won't have enough to get home, or I just get home and I leave Rocky. And of course he goes for Rocky because that's what good friends do, and that's what makes your heart swell up in the movie. And uh, so he makes it there, and he saves Rocky and sacrifices his chance to get back to Earth. But then we do get the happy ending because what happens is he ends up going with Rocky back to Rocky's home, and they make a little, like, he basically lives in a giant terrarium that they've made for him to simulate Earth, and they're working to get him a ship that will take him back home. Uh, and once again, he has a captive audience of a classroom, these little little rock spiders. But you know what? I choose to believe that those creatures actually are good students all the time, and that's not science
There you
fiction.
go.
That's yeah. That's why they're a more
Yeah.
advanced species.
Right. Now, I will say this. My one complaint about this movie is I do feel like it's a little Return of the King-ish, and that I felt like it ended 5 times.
Mm,
And I look, I love this movie. I'm very, very high on this movie. I'm just nitpicking a little bit, but I do think we had maybe like two too many crises at the end of that movie. You know what I mean? Like, or
yeah.
like, it works. So I'm not saying it's a bad part of the movie, but I just do feel like that last 10 minutes, I was kind of like, all right, like everything's gone wrong and then gone right and gone wrong and then gone right. Let's just like this is amazing, so let's just walk out while we're ahead. You know what I mean? Like I think they maybe could have shaved a little bit off if I had to be picky about something.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's another one that I'll be really curious about to test in rewatching. Now, having brought that earlier about rewatching, like this is a movie I'm definitely going to rewatch. And so it's more of a
Mm-hmm.
curiosity about just how I'll feel different about things on the rewatch. And that's one I wonder about too. Like I wonder maybe all that will feel a little less choppy on the rewatch because when you're first
It
watching it
might.
and you're not sure what's going to happen, it is a little more of a roller coaster of like, oh gosh, another thing, more, and maybe on the rewatch it'll flow a little better, and you never know. So
It
just
may
something
very well.
to think about.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to rewatch this movie. We haven't said this out loud, but it probably goes without saying. This movie is visually amazing. There is a scene where Gosling has to go out and do movie space science stuff, and that red or pinkish like light is coming through, and I'm telling you, like I'm not trying to sound hokey or cheesy or anything, but I mean that I was just in awe of that. Especially, so I saw this in IMAX. Did you?
So I hadn't talked about this yet. I actually did not see it in IMAX, but
Mm-hmm.
that's going to come in play when we talk a little bit about box office. So finish your thought.
Okay. Okay. But I'm telling you, just in that IMAX screen and Gosling standing out on that spaceship and the colors and the visuals. I mean, I've seen a million trillion movies that take place in space. This just blew my mind. I mean, it gave me the goosebumps. It did all the things. And Gosling even tells Rocky, because Rocky's like, hey, come on, get back inside or whatever. And Gosling's like, I'm having a moment. And honestly, in my brain, I was like, me too, Ryan Gosling. Me too. Because this is just beautiful and it's amazing, and this good score kicks in, and it's just like the wonder of movies just up on the screen. And I just can't say enough about the visuals of this movie. It's all these years of me watching movies and all of our advancement in special effects, and it is nice to know sometimes you can still kind of get your breath taken away a little bit.
Well said, Andy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the box office since it was brought up.
Yeah.
This movie, it was an expensive movie. I mean, it is a giant space spectacle. So it's a $200 million budget or thereabouts. Uh, this movie, I knew I was encouraged by how it was going to do from this. On Thursday, I started looking for IMAX tickets for the weekend. And I was like, oh no, I might have a hard time seeing this in IMAX because all the IMAX showings were like sold out of all the good seats. It was like pick a seat on the far sides, basically, or maybe you could find one seat in the middle of like a row that's otherwise completely sold out. And you're kind of like, oh, do I want to do that? And I went with my brother, like I said, so I definitely couldn't find two seats together anywhere, in sort of the normal main middle section of the IMAX theater. And so we went to a normal screen, which was still a pretty big screen and nice to see. But I was like, man, I really wanted to see this on IMAX. But I'm also just really glad that this movie, apparently, a lot of people are coming to see this movie. And I think that that's borne out in the box office. Andy, do you have any specific numbers for us?
I have some very specific numbers. 140 million worldwide, 80 million in the U.S. Second best non-franchise opening ever. Uh, Second only to Oppenheimer, which opened to 82 million. So it almost caught Oppenheimer. Yeah, 80 million U.S., 140 worldwide. Great start. It's going to need it because, like you said, this is an expensive movie. I read reports saying that this movie needed to make at least $450 million to start talking about, some profit. So good start, but it needed that good start. But, and I'm sure you're going to get into this, people love this movie. So I do think this might be one of those movies that is kind of sinking into the culture well enough. I could see this having a really small drop next weekend. And I think it's going to have a good holdover.
I think this movie has two things going for it. The one and most important thing going for it is, like you said, people are enjoying it. It's got good word of mouth. One of my senior students on Friday was talking about he went to go see it with his family on Thursday. Shout out to Mitchell. And he said, I saw the best movie I've ever seen last night.
Yeah.
And so he's like, what? He's like, Project Hail Mary. Now he's young, and probably hasn't seen a whole ton of movies, but still means something when somebody says this is the best movie I've ever seen. And that's when you have kids saying things like that. I imagine the other kids are like, oh, I should go check out this movie that someone's saying is the best they've ever seen. The other thing as going for it is that there is not a lot of big releases ahead. It might be a few weeks before I could see this one being number one at the box office for several weeks in a row.
I agree with you completely. I think it's going to be just fine. And it's always cool. I talk about this a lot. I like to follow like pre-box office projections. And earlier in the week, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday morning, it was like, oh yeah, Project Hail Mary is looking at a really solid 50 million US opening. And then that just kept climbing and increasing. And the Friday to Saturday holdover was really good. So, this is just a big win for everyone. It's a big win because like I said, it's not the fourth movie. It's not a reboot. It's not a relaunch of a franchise. This is, original. It's based off a book, but this isn't, this isn't the MCU. This isn't a lot of the things that are usually big blockbusters. And so that's just a big win. And it's cool. Obviously, it's a win for Gosling. It's a win for Lord and Miller. It's a win for everyone. I predict, a lot of times these movies open so big, they obviously have nowhere to go but down. So it's typical that you'll see a 50, 55, sometimes even a 60% drop. I bet you this movie has like a 25, 30% drop. I bet it holds over really well.
Yeah, I bet so. All right. I do want to mention it's gotten really good scores on Rotten Tomatoes, 95% from critics, 96% from audiences. So everybody's loving this movie.
Everyone's in on this movie.
Yeah. I did want to, as we get ready to wrap up here, I texted you earlier today and I said, I feel like we should end this one by doing our Ryan Gosling Mount Rushmore. Because as we talked about, this guy's put together a really nice career. And it to the point where you can start talking about, well, what's, your fave four or his best four. And so, obviously, as we talk about Mount Rushmore, it really comes down to what's our personal preferences for his movies. But I'm looking at going, man, there's some big ones that I'm leaving off because you can only choose four. So, it's been a little while since we've done one of these Mount Rushmores, and I'm trying to remember how we did it in the past, if we sort of bounced back and forth or if we both just shared our list.
I think we didn't we bounce back and forth. I don't know. I
I
can't
think
remember.
we probably bounce back and forth. But anyways, so Andy, why don't you share with me one of the movies you've got on your Mount Rushmore?
Well, I'll just go ahead and get the obvious out of the way. Is I'm putting Project Hail Mary on there because, I mean, like I said, this is just the. I mean, it's just you cannot argue now that Gosling is just A+ list movie star. So got to put this on there.
You know what's funny is I didn't put it on there, and pretty much only because I was like I don't know, is it too like immediate? Like maybe I have to give it a certain like period of
Right.
time to gestate to like to do it. But it was certainly a thought I had, and of course, watching this movie is what made me think of it. So it probably will eventually rest on my Mount Rushmore. Uh, but my first one that I put on there is The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
And I think The Nice Guys is the absolute best of funny Ryan Gosling. Uh, it's one of my favorite comedic performances in any movie, and I love The Nice Guys. I think he's so good in it.
I knew you would have that on there. I knew you were a big fan of that movie. I'm going to put Blade Runner 2049 on there. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I think, it's one of those movies like it did well, but it didn't do well enough when it came out because it was an expensive movie. But now it's one of those movies people look back on and they're like, man, that movie deserved better. And I mean, you can even find a lot of online stuff. You're like, this is just a borderline masterpiece. And Gosling's great in it. It's just an awesome movie.
I also had Blade Runner 2049. I think it's my favorite of the stoic Gosling movies
Yes.
because
Yep.
that's he's a guy with a couple of pitches. He's always got really charmy. He can be kind of smarmy at times. And this is my favorite of like very stoic. I hardly talk. I just express everything through my eyes. Gosling.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
It is a really good movie. I'm going to put The Notebook on there. I think, it's not necessarily my personal favorite, but it does feel like it belongs on there. It's kind of the movie that really put Gosling on everyone's radar. And it's a movie that's endured over the years, and people have a lot of love for it. And I still see memes and TikToks and all the things on it. And, it's just an important movie for his resume. So I think it belongs on there.
Yeah, I've actually still to this day never seen The Notebook, so I couldn't put it
Yeah.
on my list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, my one that is it's actually the movie that put Gosling on my radar. I mean, I guess I'd seen him in things, he was in Remember the Titans, but I think we all know that I'm not putting that on my list
We do know
of
that.
Mount Rushmore Gosling movies. But he was in a movie called Fracture with Anthony Hopkins, and he plays a young hotshot lawyer who's got this one final case with his previous law firm, and it's trying to put Anthony Hopkins away from murder, and then he finds out like he kind of gets set up for his case to fall apart, and he just kind of becomes obsessed with it and actually proving Hopkins is guilty. And not many people have seen it. It probably wouldn't belong on his Mount Rushmore, like if I was really saying what are his best movies, but since this is really like my Mount Rushmore of Gosling movies, it's like an important movie to me and one that I've rewatched a lot. And so I was like, I got to put Fracture on there for me.
Yep, fair enough. I've seen it, and I do enjoy that movie. This one might sound a little strange, but I'm going to put The Big Short on there, which is not a Ryan Gosling starring movie. It's Gosling and Steve Carell and Christian Bale, right? And it's a lot of people, but if I'm remembering right, I I didn't not like Ryan Gosling, but he was so known for The Notebook. And that's just kind of what had stuck in my mind for a long time. And I kind of remember that just being one of the moments where I was like, oh, like this guy is more than the Notebook guy. Like this guy can do some stuff. And I don't know, that's just a movie that always sticks out to me and kind of helped me look at Gosling a little differently. So I'm going to put that online.
Yeah. Andy, The Big Short is my fourth and final movie. And
Nice.
same thing. It's probably the shortest screen time of any of his sort of like well-known movies because it is such it's such an ensemble thing. But he's the narrator pushing us through the story. His scenes are very memorable in the movie. You know, if I'm just ranking like the movies that he's in, what are my highest rated? It probably is the highest rated of any of the movies he's in, because I love that movie. It's one of my favorite all time movies, and yeah, he's just really good in it. So I had The Big Short in there as well.
Nice.
Now, Andy, I think it's important to kind of go through and note that he's got a lot of movies that would be on other people's Mount Rushmores. I think that we didn't even, you know, have represented in ours. Neither of us had La La Land, which is a
Yeah.
it was a it was a Best Picture winner for about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
But
sure was.
you know, we didn't mention Barbie. Well, you mentioned Barbie earlier in the podcast, but like not in this context. Drive is a very popular movie, which I
It's a good
considered for
movie.
a minute. The Place Beyond the Pines is a movie that he's kind of loved for. Crazy Stupid Love is a movie I strongly considered because
Yeah,
he's so good
people
in that,
really
and
like
so
that movie.
good. Yeah, he's some all-time great chemistry between him and what's her name, Emma
Emma
Stone.
Stone.
Yep. And then even The Fall Guy I considered from last year, you know, because it was such a fun movie. So
Yep.
this is what I mean, like when I say it was time to do a Mount Rushmore for him, because when you've got a whole bunch of really good movies that get left on the cutting floor, that's when you
Yeah.
know you've got a good Mount Rushmore. So I do just want to recap that real quick. On your Mount Rushmore for Ryan Gosling, you had Project Hail Mary, Blade Runner 2049, The Notebook, and The Big Short. On my Ryan Gosling Mount Rushmore, I had The Nice Guys, The Big Short, Blade Runner 2049, and Fracture. And I would love to hear from our audience and know what they would have to have on their Ryan Gosling Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Just I'll give a quick shout out to my son Ryan. He La La Land is one of his favorite movies, and I know that would be on his Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's fair. It's
Yeah.
a
Oh,
really good
absolutely.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
just a
think that's
talented
one.
dude.
Yeah. That's
Go
one
ahead.
that even though I didn't love the movie, I think it's a pretty good movie. I really respect the performance so much that I thought about putting it on there.
Yeah, he's really, really good. And just annoying at how Gosling's just good at everything. Need him to sing and dance. He can, it's just like, all right, dude.
Yeah. Play
Why do you
play
have to have
jazz
all the
piano.
talent?
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. Uh, all right, Andy. That is going to do it for our discussion of Project Hail Mary. But we're going to be back very soon because this is a weekend with two notable releases, particularly for us. And so we're going to be back soon talking about Now You See Me 2, or no, not, why do I do that? It's not Now You See Me. What a horrible franchise. It's
That's a
Ready or
terrible
Not
franchise.
2. Here I Come. Much better. What a
Much,
terrible
much better.
slip.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We're going to be talking about that one. I'm going to collect myself and make sure I don't make that mistake on the actual pod for that movie. And Andy, we will see everybody next time.
See you soon.